Hi everyone, today I'm going to take a quick look at how to fish with soft plastics. It's a style of fishing I've been doing probably for about 8 years now, and sort of derived really from fishing with bigger plastic baits with internal weights, which is how I really started off fishing, particularly in deeper reservoirs for pike. And it kind of developed from there. To cut a long story short, eventually I developed a bit of tennis elbow and was struggling with bigger lures, so went on to some lighter kit and smaller lures and found that not only did I catch more fish, but I found that I also managed to hook a lot more as well and was getting far fewer just bumps and knocks. So it was definitely something in the shads, and over the years I've used probably most of what's on the market in different sizes and patterns. And to be honest, these days I use 3 different patterns really, more depending on the speed and the depth that I'm fishing than anything else. But my go-to for the last couple of years has been the Westin Shad Tees, which is a really nice lure. I find it very easy to fish, and the action on it is absolutely superb. Now, you might think I would say that because I'm sponsored by Westin, but it really is my go-to. And what I've found with it is a lot of the time where on other types of lure you get a lot of follows to the boat or bumps. I'm catching a lot of fish really at the start of a cast or through the middle of a cast, which says to me that the fish are taking them a lot more confidently compared to following. Obviously, you still get days where you do get some follows, but certainly nothing like we used to get, especially on bigger lures. And talking of size, my go-to really is the 6-inch, which is this one here, just over hand size, weighs about 25 grams, 30 grams, I should say, without the jig head. Just a nice size to use, really, and even for big pike, I've had several 30-pounders and a lot of 20-pounders on baits that size. There really is no need to go any bigger, in my opinion, on a lot of waters. And certainly if the fish have been pressured, then this is the size I would go for. Now, my rigging's gone through a few different stages to where it's evolved to at the moment. That's kind of how I started off, and I'll show you on the close-up camera, with a standard jig head. That's I think a 24-gram jig head, that one, and then with a wired-in treble hook. On a 6-inch like that, I'm generally using a size 1 treble, and initially I was using the treble on the top. It seemed like the obvious place to put it. Meant that if you were counting lures down and fishing them very slow and dragging along the bottom, you tended not to pick up so much weed and detritus on. Worked okay, but the only problem with it was I did find that occasionally you would lose the odd fish just through poor hook holds. So that kind of developed away from that one, and again with the same kind of jig head, what I started to do was just hooking it in the belly, putting the treble there in the belly rather than the top. Straight away the catch rate increased slightly. On some waters it was more noticeable than others, and I was finding that I was catching a lot more fish hooked on that treble and just nicked in the jaw. And it's always worth trying to sort of look at where the fish has been hooked and try and compare it to how you're setting up the lures and lures you're using, because it can tell you about how the pike are taken on certain days, and I mean you can adapt your tactics slightly. From that, in the last year or so, I've changed the setup again and gone for something that's a little bit more refined. Now, the problem I had with the previous setup is that because the wire, and I'm using 50-pound 7-strand coated here for my stingers, is coming from the top and then being bent round to the bottom of the bait, it does tend to mean that they swim a bit off centre. Not a massive problem. Again, on some days it might be a benefit because it's creating a bigger profile. But really, I like to be neat and tidy, and these Westin HD jig heads are absolutely superb, with the eye at the bottom as well, where I can attach the stinger using a 9mm split ring. Means I can instantly really change the stinger if I need to, if it gets damaged when I'm hooked a fish, or maybe the hook points get blunted over. If I'm fishing on rocks or something like that, makes it very neat and simple to change. Puts the hook in exactly the right position, means that if I do hook a fish on it, it tends to swing free, come out, which again can make a slight difference to how many fish you land. And that's kind of my normal setup at the moment. I vary the size of the treble, really depending on the size of the bait. Say for a 6 inch like that, it's normally a size 1. If I go down to the sort of 5 inch, then I'll drop a size. If I go up a size of bait, then it's up to a 1.0. But yeah, a 1 is about right. Straight points on the trebles. Some people prefer interned. I find I lose more fish on an intern, so I always go for a straight point and check those hooks. I can't say how important it is to keep checking those hooks through the pit through a day's fishing, because they will go blunt, they will touch stuff. And I always have a sharpening stone or a file in my pocket, and I'll touch those hooks up or change them as I need to through the day. There's nothing worse on a tough day that you finally get a take and you lose it because your hooks haven't set properly. So that's it really. Shad teas, say fantastic lure. 99 times out of 100 it's the first lure that comes out of my box these days. It's kind of like my mid-speed lure, I would say. I say the main factor I use on choosing my lures is the speed that I run them at. This is a mid-speed, and I can show you a little bit of video now. Just shows really, this is actually quite a slow retrieve on this lure. It looks like it's a lot faster than it actually is, but really it's only going quite slowly. You know, real edging it along, trying to keep the lure fairly close to the bottom. And on this day, I had quite a few fish on this, a lot of follows on the camera. They were backing off the camera a little bit, the pike. And you'll notice with it, with the shad tees, you get a lot of body roll. And some of my European friends said to me years and years ago, don't worry about the rest of the action, really concentrate on finding lures that have got that body roll. And to be honest, at the time I didn't really believe them, but the more and more I've played around with lures over the year, I can see now that body roll, there's definitely something in it, and that kind of motion that you get of the lure rocking is definitely something that turns the pike on and is something you're looking for. There we go. So yeah, what else am I using? Well, if I'm having a tough day and things aren't really going my way, and I'm not getting the hookups that I think I should be, or I start getting follows, then what I will do is go down to a smaller size lure, change to maybe a 14 centimetre, 5.5 inch in a slim body profile, just to break it up. Just you know, a lot of the time the pike aren't willing to take something hard, and a bigger lure, just swapping down will bring you bites. Yeah, and slowing down the retrieve to go deeper. What I should say, I missed out really, is with the jig head size, what I work on is a roughly 1 gram per foot of water depth. So 10 foot, 10 grams, 20 foot, 20 grams, something like that, and judge it like that. I tend to make the lures up on the bank. That's one of the reasons I like the HD jig heads. It's so easy with the split rings to make them up, rather than do it at home and end up with a load of lures rigged up with the wrong size jig head and stuff like that. I do it based on the conditions. Very, very simple. Tackle wise, I tend to use quite a stiff rod, stiffer than some of my friends. So at present I'm using a Westin W4 8 foot is my preferred length. Again, you'll see I prefer a spinning reel over a multiplier, just my personal preference really. And I'm on a 30 to 100 gram, which might sound a bit heavy for shads, but remember, I'm probably going to be using 20 or 30 gram jig head plus a 30 gram lure, so there's 60 grams straight away. And that allows me to sort of boss the pike really and get them in quick. What more to say? That's about it really. So fish the shad tees on a steady retrieve. You'll find a lot of fish. You'll get takes from pike and zander and perch, depending on the size of lure you're using, on the pause. And what I tend to do is not just pause it, not just stop. I'll pause and give it a slow pull at the same time, and then start retrieving again. So often you'll get a hit if there's a fish following, just because you've got that change of speed. So you don't have to impart massive amount of action. You don't have to sort of jig the rod tip or anything like that. I've never found it makes a lot of difference. But just put some pauses on. I mean, that'll help the lure track down and keep it in the zone as well. And depending on the day, sometimes the fish want lures up in the water. Sometimes they want them really ploughed along the bottom. Again, there's no hard and fast rules. It just depends on what the fish are mood they're in on the day. But yeah, certainly putting pauses in will help you. So yeah, that's all there is to it really. It's dead simple. A very, very nice way to fish. Not using big heavy gear, so you're not going to get too tired even on sort of long autumn days, fishing lures all day. So yeah, hope that was interesting. Get out and give it a go, and I'll probably see you out there.